Cool, cool.
Okay, so there's a few ways cat chat works. Usually, it's just a calm, totally calm discussion. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't see why it wouldn't be calm. It's not like we're throwing pitchforks at each other. Um,
Well, that can be arranged.
just arrange a 1v1 in MCC somehow. I don't know.
No, no, no. I will be there at your place with pitchforks ready to go. We're doing this
just,
for real, for keeps.
just maybe get a spear or something while we're at it. Maybe a BR-55. I don't
There you
know.
go.
Maybe we'll see if Bill Gates could spare some money, make a real BR-55.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got the capital to spare.
Next thing you know, the U.S. military is like, wait, you mean we can make these weapons for real? Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So usually it's just a discussion. We talk about a specific topic initially, but we are welcome to discuss anything you'd like. We could go as long as you want. And also, you could start, I could start, totally up to you.
I'll let you lead the way.
Okay, so I guess the way I'll start is the Halo universe is very much known for the Human Covenant War. I think that's what people mainly think of when they
Oh
think
yeah.
of Halo. You know, when you say Halo, you think Master Chief, the Covenant, or maybe in the future, the Banished. But we don't really talk about the Insurrection a lot, despite it being really important.
Sadly.
Mainly, its causes. You know, we have a lot of lore on the Insurrection, what it was, why it happened, but a lot of it is more read between the lines than anything like that. And so, yeah, I guess today we're here to talk about a very underappreciated part of Halo lore.
Amen. Where to start with the insurrection? I mean, you talk about how it's this really important piece of part of the story, and like I don't think most people will like when Halo first started. We obviously knew about the insurrection if you were reading the books at the time, but as things went on and the insurrection was fleshed out, I mean, you get to the impossible life, impossible death of Preston J. Cole from Halo Evolutions, easily my favorite story in the Halo mythos. Um, and you basically have them explaining that had the insurrection not happened, humanity would not have been ready for the Covenant in more ways than one. Like the one thing that most people might think about right off the bat is Spartans. Uh, Spartans were created, whether people know this or not, originally for the insurrection. And had there been no insurrection, we'd have had no Spartans. But it goes even deeper than that. Like apparently, again, according to the Preston J. Cole story, it's like originally human ships were not well outfitted for space combat, and they, as a result of the insurrection, they had to adjust to it. They had to add the max. They had to get better with their missiles and their point defenses and all this stuff. This like is it after once people had started spreading out across the stars like 200 years, 300 years before, there was not a whole lot of reason for war. All of a sudden there was, and because of it, we were able to fight the Covenant.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point to bring up the technological aspects because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people will bring up, obviously, as you mentioned, the Spartans. But really, when you look at the previous conflicts that humanity has been in, I believe there was something called the Intercolony Wars mentioned, but I don't know if that's actually like I've heard some people mention it, but I don't know really much about that. And then of course you had the interplanetary war or interplanetary wars, and really a lot of that was more or less engagements on the ground, planet side, or island World War II island hopping style
Yep.
engagements in the Jovian Moons campaign. And really, there wasn't a lot of combat in space, and the Human Covenant War was heavily emphasized in space because obviously the
Oh yeah.
UNSC had plenty of experience on the ground. It knew what it was doing. But
Yeah, yeah.
in space, it was pretty. It was like a baby trying to fight an aircraft carrier. It just doesn't work.
It's a
And
pretty good analogy.
yeah, I mean, because even with the insurrection, the UNSC won a handful of engagements throughout the war, and really, the Navy's job throughout the war was less, we're going to push the Covenant back. It's more, hold the Covenant off as long as possible to give
Yeah,
everyone else a shot at maybe escaping. But
basically.
and I guess the insurrection really was what gave humanity just that small enough footing to stand up to the Covenant in, well, whatever way it could. Because imagine what would have happened
Mhm.
if there were no Mac cannons.
Yeah, or even if there were, nobody knew how to use them properly. With no experience fighting in space. Had there
Yeah,
been no Spartans?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even things like the orbital defense platforms and
Oh my God, yeah.
the defense grid over Earth. I've affectionately nicknamed it the blanket. Uh,
Yeah. I actually really like that nickname. I would love if that was canonized or some, or like
yeah,
the 343 just happened to be on the same wavelength there. So
yeah.
that's kind of cool.
I kind of just spoiled the the name of the next greatest battle chapter. Oops, sorry, 00. Uh, um, but really, more or less, the orbital defense platforms, as Johnson mentioned, was just politics in theory. But it was that politics in theory that eventually became a reality. And
Mhm.
I don't doubt that something similar would have been attempted, even if the insurrection wasn't a thing. But the insurrection definitely gave the UNSC that experience with, well, we know how to sling something through space. Let's make a bigger version of it.
Yeah.
But then there's also, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
But then there's also other aspects of it that I think are also not really talked about, which is it comes down to the general dysfunction of the united or unified Earth government as a
Mhm.
state, because there is a huge amount of stuff that's been not directly stated to us, but we can look at it through conversations, through interactions between characters, and seeing how organizations behave, and we could kind of read between the lines even if it's not explicitly told to us. Like, as an example, I think the biggest one, and I absolutely love talking about it, is Charybdis 9,
Oh,
from the Cole Protocol,
yeah.
which is the perfect example of a corporation basically dumping a bunch of people on a planet, saying this is a colony now, getting the benefits of a state, and then having no antitrust policies in place to deal with what happened there. And for those of you that don't know, just addressing the audience real quick. So
Hmm.
Charybdis 9, to put it simply, was a planet established by I believe it was a mining corporation. And initially things were fine, but excuse me, but eventually the corporations started making it seem more and more like an actual colony. But instead of allowing other businesses to open up, everything was corporate run, transportation,
Yeah.
uh, everything really. I don't need to list it off. Just everything became corporate run. And what eventually happened was the price of living started to go up and up and up, and eventually people's salaries could not keep up with the cost of living, and that led to debt, and that basically made them corporate slaves, more or less, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Basically, IO9. I think it was. What was it? IO9 or IO or not IO9? I can't remember the name of the company. I'm clearly confusing with an old website, but there was some company in Ready Player One that was like, yeah, they owned all these people's debt and you know
Yeah,
literally enslaved them. If people want a more familiar example, I guess, for lack of better phrasing. But it's kind of funny too is we look at you look at Halo 5, like you're talking about this, and I'm immediately thinking about Meridian in Halo 5.
oh
You
yeah,
basically
Meridian.
have this company coming in. So clearly the UNSC didn't learn any lessons in its 25 years of Covenant War and uh, a couple decades plus or minus of essentially civil war prior to that. But
Yeah,
yeah, post-war, you have this company coming in, Liang Dortmund, and they own everything. They have people coming here to deglass the planet, and they basically own all of that land and will then sell it. I could very easily see another Charybdis 9 happening afterwards.
Yeah, and I think the breaking point with Charybdis was definitely the Covenant War. I mean, really, the Covenant Wars, just politically speaking, it's very interesting because the UNSC kind of saw itself transitioning out of a military arm and becoming more of an emergency government, which
Hmm.
definitely I wonder how that happened exactly. They never really told us exactly how that happened, but
They
uh,
give us some hints.
yeah, they
Again,
gave us
it's
some
kind of like
hints.
read between the lines. It's like
Yeah,
as the war went on, it made more sense to apply or to give like martial authority to the military.
yeah,
And then post-war, officially they gave it up, but we all know that Oni especially is still operating as a shadow government thanks to that, thanks to all the changes of the is Human Covenant War. Just basically everything had to be consolidated. Well, UNSC is going to take like the colonial arms aren't working. Well, the UNSC will just absorb those directly. Other intelligence agencies are out there. Well, Oni's just going to absorb them all so they can work more efficiently. And what happens post-war? Things are fine, don't you think? Things are fine. Things are fine.
why if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
That's kind of their reasoning, and
yeah. Except it's broke for everybody, just not them.
exactly. And going back to Charybdis,
Hmm.
what I think highlights things like Charybdis is a fundamental flaw within the UEG's separation of state interests, human rights interests, and
Hmm.
corporate and private interests. The distinction between the two is clearly very much not there, and so it almost presents the unified Earth government as like they're not willing to back the little guy. They're not willing to help out the little guy, and then couple that with the bureaucracy between the CMA and the UNSC, which I don't think gets a lot of attention. There was a huge amount of bureaucracy between, and when I say bureaucracy, I mean like competition
Yeah.
between the CMA and the UNSC, and eventually the CMA kind of solidified its almost death grip over the outer colonies, and in response, and the UEG was just like, okay, and of course, people of the outer colonies were not exactly a big fan of a sent, a excuse me, an agency, a military organization sponsored directly by the central government from Earth, way, way over in Seoul, kind of interfering with their lives all the time, and
Hmm.
essentially restricting things like freedom of commerce. To I don't believe the CMA restricted freedom of speech, but we know in Halo freedom of speech is a non-existent thing. Um,
Yeah, I mean, officially it's codified, I'm sure, but
but then Oni controls the news networks, so
yeah, a
rest in
lot of us in the
peace.
lore community call yeah, a lot of us in the lore community call the UEG like a fascist or the fascist state, and not without good reason.
Yeah, and it really is a
Hmm.
fascist state. I mean, it's flat out laid out for us in the Cole Protocol. I mean, I think one interaction really sticks out to me when Keys and what do you remember the name of the frigate they were using in the Cole Protocol?
The Midsummer Night, I
There we go.
think.
I think it was the Midsummer Night
Yeah,
when Keys and a group of
it's either that or just
ODSTs,
Midsummer.
yeah,
Yeah.
Keys and a group of ODSTs from the Midsummer Night essentially stopped a commercial ship. Granted, that ship did turn out to be full of insurrectionists, but that said, uh, they stopped a commercial ship with without really much reason other than quote unquote inspection. And just imagine for a second if you're not running a ship that's chock full of insurrectionists and explosives, and this heavily armed military frigate basically stops you, says, if you don't stop, if you make one wrong move, we're blowing you to Kingdom Come into the vacuum of space, and we are not rescuing you. I mean, they didn't say that, but given the UNSC's treatment of anyone that's not on their side,
You
um,
can read between the lines.
yeah. And then you're expecting, okay, I'm just expecting a few officers to show up, and then no, a military officer with fully armed, well trained special
Special forces.
operations,
Yeah.
ODSTs, boards your ship, and basically starts, I'm not going to say ransacking, but uh, tearing your ship apart for the mere chance that they'll find an insurrectionist. And then a picture starts to become clear. So you have these organizations trying to basically have a death grip. I mean, really, there's no other way to put it. A death grip over the outer colonies and really just restricting things over and over. And of course, we did see some level of appeasement trying to that was attempted with things like the vaccination program. Though I would not be surprised if there was an ulterior motive for the whole vaccine program.
I mean,
Um,
we basically see that the UNSC was using it to build a genetic database. I guarantee that was probably not accidental.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I can't believe I forgot about that. And then,
That's why we're here.
yep. And then, of course, you have. I think the tipping point would have most definitely been Eridanus 2. Because you had the CMA, which is supposed to be this peacekeeping organization. You have trained members of the CMA essentially supplying, and I can't remember if it was training or not because it's been a while since I read up on my Eridanus lore. I read up on everything else except Eridanus, and I'm kicking myself for it. And then basically sponsoring a violent coup uh, against the planetary government, and then it's like, well, these guys are these even the people within this organization doesn't like Earth, and they're resorting to violent means. And then you have things like like there was an arcology that some innies used commercial nukes for, which hold on, there's commercial nukes now. um so
When you
it's
start mining in space.
yeah, that's true. Nukes and space go hand in hand, but still, uh, it's pretty bad when you what is essentially a weapon of mass destruction becomes widely available, and then you have a violent insurrection occurring, and then you get the arcology. So really, more or less, it comes down to, well, there's government overreach way too much in some areas, and then not enough government regulation in others. Sorry, I've been talking for way too long.
I mean, that's fine, but uh, I don't even know what to necessarily add to that. Uh,
I mean, there's also more or less the politics behind it, such as and it's disturbingly resembling our world, but the whole "they're gonna take our guns" mentality in the outer colonies, as shown with Halo
oh,
5.
yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny. There's a surprising crossover. No, I guess not that surprising in when you think about it, but there's a pretty significant crossover between the Firefly fan base and Halo fan base, or at least there are a lot of Firefly fans in the Halo fan base. What's really funny about that is that the Firefly franchise as a whole is basically centered around or it follows essentially the what would be failed insurrectionists in the Halo universe. So it's basically if the and they're the good guys, whereas in Halo UNSC are the good guys, the exact opposite, the Alliance by comparison. I always found that kind of funny, because you were talking about the politics.
Yeah, that's
But
true. And there's kind of this. It seems like on Earth, as you get closer to the inner colonies, there's a lot of people that prefer strict, hardline government
oh
regulations.
yeah,
Civilians shouldn't own weapons. As I think the perfect example would be Vale and Tanaka.
oh Tanaka, yeah.
Yeah, Tanaka in Halo 5. I can never pronounce her name.
I mean, if you want to get fair, technically Tanaka's not even the because it's a Japanese last name, but
and, yeah,
us
and
Americans.
America. Um, the two of them, they didn't go at it, but I could tell it was kind of like a bit of a heated subject, because Vale, who's very much an inner colony Earth girl, was like, civilians shouldn't have this much ordnance, and then Tanaka's like, what do you mean, this is normal? And
Yeah,
it comes down to, well, we also got to remember that a lot of outer colonies were kind of left to take care of themselves in the form of militias, which
Oh yeah.
is also a very um, not really focused on part of lore. There were a lot of militias talking. There were a lot of militias, and so you have this culture in the outer colonies of we're the pioneers of humanity. We're the first boots on the ground. We're the first, basically, and that could also contribute to this mentality of, well, because you guys are so focused with Earth, we got it, and you don't take care of us. We got to take care of ourselves.
Oh yeah. And that really is just the root of it. And I just want to talk about this for a little bit because I kind of touched on this myself when I was talking, funny enough, about when I did my Pride Month video a couple years back. But you look at or human space as a whole in Halo, and it's essentially where it's in a beautiful, like a kind of beautiful in some ways, like post race, post uh, LGBT Q plus, post a lot of modern political issues. And the insurrection isn't coming, out of it isn't coming out of like racist ideals or any sort of traditionally supremacist ideals, but it's simply a fight for freedom. It's the American Revolution. I was almost going to say the Civil War, but no, that was about slavery, so never mind. But it's essentially the American Revolution again, just on a much grander scale.
Yeah.
And
They'll also. Yeah. No, never
yeah,
mind.
yeah, except yeah,
Taxes.
yeah,
Taxes.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
taxes.
do have yeah. And then where was I going to go with that? Right, American Revolution on a grander scale. Oh yeah, and in this case, Britain just happens to have nukes. Because
Britain happens to
big
have
incite,
nukes and
yeah,
really scary 7 foot tall super soldiers.
yeah. Well, I mentioned the nuke specifically because that was like the inciting incident of the insurrection as we know it in Halo, since there's kind of been separatist movements, as you mentioned, like as far back as the Interplanetary Wars, 4 centuries before the main Halo story. But you get it all essentially kicks off the modern Halo story with this colony, Far Isle, where there was a uprising there. It got so out of hand. We don't really have all the clear details, so it's dubious to try and say the UNSC was right in what they did, but it gets so out of hand that the UNSC nukes the damn planet. And
Yeah.
that just became, not only did that bite them in the ass, or that all that did was bite them in the ass. It didn't put down the insurrection. If anything, it inflamed it more. There's pun intended for the hell of it. But terrible, terrible puns.
Hey, I am a pun supporter. Don't you worry.
All right. But yeah,
Puns are fun. I'll see
they're
myself
so
out.
punny. But yeah, you get Far Isle, UNSC nukes it, and it just becomes a rallying cry and basically an excuse for the insurrection to start dirty bombing. Dirty bombing UNSC or even civilian locations like we see in Halo Contact Harvest and certainly other places.
Yeah.
But I always remember the Contact Harvest one especially.
Yeah, to me, the one that sticks out was when a group of insurrectionists detonated a commercial nuke at an arcology, which killed. I'm foggy on the details. A few million people, maybe. It
That
was.
was New Haven, I think, right?
Yeah, the New Haven arcology. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was essentially the inciting, not the inciting incident, but it was like the final put. Yeah, it was the final push for Halsey. It's like, okay, she saw that. She's like, okay, now we got to make the Spartan program. I don't like the idea of kidnapping kids, but it's got to happen.
Yeah, and then we also have to think about the inner colonies politics to it, because Operation Trebuchet, as we know, was basically like it when there really is no other way to put it. Operation Trebuchet definitely very much became the UNSC's Vietnam, the UNSC's Afghanistan, the UNSC's
Oh
Iraq,
yeah, big
and
time.
it went from initial like support, like yeah, unlike those other wars that I mentioned with Optre, the UNSC was widely supported by by people in the inner colonies, and even to a very limited extent, some of the outer colonies, but like that's mainly like more like specific isolated peoples there, because I guarantee you if I lived in the outer colonies and I heard, by the way, the UNSC is on its way to our planet to declare martial law, it would have been like, oh god. Oh no.
Yeah, you're not helping your cause, UNSC.
And so then things kind of started to spiral out of control, because as the bodies started to come home, as civilians started to die, more civilians, really, I think it's safe to say, more civilians died during the insurrection than actual insurrectionists.
I would not be surprised.
I mean, just given Far Isle.
Fair point. Fair point.
Just given Far Isle and New Haven arcology
tips the scale, doesn't it? Yeah, those.
The UN. I mean, really, when you look at Halo lore, the UNSC's automatic response to it is, can a Macround kill it? No. Can Spartans deal with it? I know Spartans weren't there during Far Isle.
Yeah, but eventually
eventually it's like can options A, B, and C deal with it in a reasonable amount of time? No.
Right,
nuke it.
Option N, nuke.
And
well, sometimes it's option A, nuke for atomic, I guess. But
yeah, that's nice. Or Operation H for hydrogen.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. They have plenty of hydrogen bombs and.
Damn, how many Shivas did the UNSC waste on Far Isle? I'm actually curious about that now. Hey, 00, if you're watching this, I know you have the calculations for the Shivas. Can you determine how many Shivas it would take to destroy Earth?
That's a good question.
Then
I'm sure we'll know. Didn't have Nova bombs at the time.
Oh my god. Could you just imagine the media?
Nuke didn't work? Nova.
The Shiva didn't work, sir.
Far Isle was getting far out of control. We had to destroy the entire planet. It's just the way things are, we promise.
You could say Far Isle was far beyond saving.
Oh no.
The audience is going to want to crucify us for the amount of fun puns we're doing.
Yes.
Where were we? Oh yeah, that's right, Far Isle.
Yeah. Well, there,
Far Isle nukes.
There, and over there, and over there.
And then there's one last thing regarding the insurrection that I was hoping to touch on, and then we could, totally go on to any topic of your choice. Or we
My Little Pony, obviously. That's my real passion.
You're a secret brony. I can respect
No,
it.
not really. I gave the show a try, but it just didn't click for me.
Honestly,
now, the Owl
I
House.
did act. Just full confession time. I'm sure my Discord's gonna make fun of me for it. I did at one point like it in secret, and then I stopped watching it.
I mean, like what you like.
Yeah.
Screw the people that judge you for it.
Oh no, it's just the people
know.
on my Discord, we're the kind of friends that give each other crap for everything.
No, I get you.
Yeah. So regarding the insurrection, I was actually hoping to, because you already brought it up with technology and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that also I'm also curious about, the average soldier that was serving to combat the insurrectionists, how do you think the dynamic changed from at the end of the insurrection, when it went from we're fighting people that are terrorists to we're fighting aliens that want to kill us? And how do you think that narrative kind of affected those that were already in the service?
Well, I think we actually get a really good look at that again with Contact Harvest, because our point of view character, Sergeant Johnson, at that point he is essentially like the average guy within the service, and we can see both through his own testimony and just some of the other characters and incidents in the book. Like when he goes back to Earth, he sees all this graffiti about Innies Get Out. Innies being, of course, a nickname for insurrectionists. But clearly, public. I think you kind of touched on this already, but yeah, public favor was souring at that point. And Johnson himself, at the end of the book, when the Covenant War is broken out, I don't remember exactly all the shit he says. It's been a long time since I've reread that, and I really need to. But he essentially expresses something along the lines of, "Thank God we're fighting aliens now. I can feel so much better about this," because he was getting tired of killing his fellow human. And I can imagine that a lot of people in the service, if not those exact same feelings, would have something like, this fight is pointless. I don't want to do this anymore, or maybe just kind of grown cold and unfeeling towards the entire thing, and maybe having a target that wasn't human would
Yeah, they
kind
kind
of,
of, it seems like they stopped believing in it, and now
yeah,
that
they
they
have,
have this inhuman face, this thing that really, and really, when I say inhuman face, something that has no face to fight. It kind of, I think it's more of like a, like what you're trying to get at is it's a
yeah,
ease of their conscience.
yes, absolutely. That's like the picture we get or that's the yeah, it's the picture we get sold or whatever.
Yeah,
Mixing my metaphors, I think, but whatever. With Contact Harvest, and we actually kind of see, I guess, almost the opposite in effect with Mickey in Halo New Blood and Bad Blood by extension, where we have this kid who, granted, he was the son of insurrectionists, but he didn't have very clear memories of it. But he was raised by the UNSC system. He signed up eagerly I think he signed up eagerly at least, but he signed up to fight the Covenant. And the second he was told he might have to fight humans, he almost had a mental breakdown. Then he basically did after the rookie got killed. I would definitely attribute his choices to something of a mental breakdown. But you can see like the psychology of fighting something literally alien and faceless in a lot of ways, as you said, was a relief for a lot of those in the service.
yeah, and that's I didn't even think about Mickey, and Mickey I think is the kind of the prime example of
Mm-hmm.
just how I guess distraught a lot, especially because a lot of people in the service by the end of the Covenant War and after the Covenant War were very likely born during the war, and so that was their life, and now they're told, and so their whole life they sure they knew about the insurrection, there were elements of the insurrection, but they knew the Covenant, they knew of this horrible, awful force, and we're the good guys, and all of humanity must unite to fight this thing. And then immediately after, you're fighting humans again. We're fighting humans
Yeah.
again. But then a lot of these people, I mean, I'm pretty sure the vast majority of pre-Covenant War vets aren't alive right now.
Yeah.
So,
I think they've
yeah.
all but said that actually, like, with how they've made comments on how young uh, the members of the service were as the war went on. I might be misremembering that, but I could swear that they actually have touched on that at least once.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, I think just once again reading between the lines here, Sadie and Daisha, very very good example. She
Oh
was
yeah,
18 or 19 when she was trying to go to enlist, and the superintendent, or Virgil really, because Virgil's like a subroutine, was trying to stop her.
yep.
And
And
oh,
she was
sorry.
very eager. No, yeah, I was just gonna say she was very eager to sign up.
Yeah, and
So-
probably because propaganda.
Oh yeah,
Propaganda. We know
big time.
Oni was so good at their job they covered up Reach.
For several, a couple or no, yeah, almost over a month, and depending on how you want to slice that. But yeah,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
even if you want to disregard like everything prior to that that formal invasion on August 13th, 14th, like they still kept that under wraps, and as cities were being evacuated,
yeah, which
that
is
is a scary amount of power.
yeah, I mean, so I don't think it's a reach to say that they
Yeah.
could get people to sign up in droves.
Yeah, I mean we see in Second Sunrise over New Mombasa, which is such an amazing story and such amazing art. Oh my god. Anyway, we see in there because it's from the perspective of a propaganda artist, essentially, for lack of a better title. But there's just there's a great moment where this military advisor is leaning over Ben Giroux's shoulder and it's like, can you give it like a 15% more feeling of excitement or something like that? Because It's like he's trying to edit this horrible photo into something presentable for propaganda purposes. And
Right.
yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, it is really scary just how much Oni.
Yeah. Or hell, continuing with the Benjiro, I don't know why I didn't think about this until literally just now. Just Hunt the Truth. He literally got on live TV, he got to expose Oni's dirtiest secret, and they managed to wipe that away.
Like, not only did they manage to wipe it away, they used the same news channel to just
Yeah,
discredit it. And
yeah,
man, rest. I'm. He's not dead. He's facing a fate worse than death right now.
yes, he is.
Uh,
Jesus.
Midnight Facility.
Oh,
Yikes.
that when we went there in season 2, everybody broke.
Oh boy.
Oh my god.
Midnight Facility. I know they're fictional, but just can we get a salute for the fallen in the held up in that
Yeah,
facility? They
true
they
that.
were real ones, except for the Sangheili terrorists. They weren't, but details.
Details.
I think actually a thought literally just came to mind. How do you think the Insurrection will affect the galaxy going forward with Halo Infinite?
Well, with Halo Infinite itself, like with any Halo game, I'd be surprised if we even got a mention of the Insurrection in anything other than audio logs or terminals or whatever they end up having.
Right.
But as
Yeah.
for stuff like the expanded media, like we already have one story coming out, Rubicon Protocol from Kelly Gay next year, and that'll be dealing like technically it's pre-Infinite, but it's still post the Banished victory, post Installation 07's incident, it seems. So like that though,
Yeah.
I don't know that the Insurrection will ever be mentioned.
Yeah.
But it would be like we do see in Halo Bad Blood that like the UNSC is starting to reach out to these insurrectionist cells wherever they are and try to work with them again in many cases because they worked with several throughout the war. So I would definitely love to see a story that's kind of expanding on those ideas. These insurrectionist cells working with whatever is left of the UNSC. I'd love to see Spartans fighting alongside insurrectionists, especially twos or threes that were expressly made. Well, twos were expressly made for that, but threes were still used against them. But anyway,
Yeah. I find
it
it.
would be interesting.
Sorry. Go on.
No, that was pretty
Yeah.
much the end of my thought.
Yeah. It's pretty ironic that in Halo the only time humanity is ever truly standing together is when they're facing some form of extinction, or in the case of Cortana in the created, some form of loss of freedom
Yeah.
across the board. Yeah.
Which I completely believe. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and do you have anything else you'd like to talk about? Like, I mean, we could always go back to that pitchfork idea. That pitchfork
Unfortunately,
idea.
I think that one's played out.
Uh, yeah, spears would work better instead.
Yeah. Or
Uh,
javelins if you want to
Javelins
go
too.
long distance.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe get a horse while we're at it. Two horses.
Yeah, just yeah. No,
Uh,
one horse. We have to
just
fight over the horse.
We have to fight over the horse. The winner gets the horse to then use
you
in
go.
the actual match.
Somehow.
The other person, you're just fighting a corpse.
I win. Yay.
Uh, um. Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to touch on? Maybe some Halo Infinite stuff.
Ooh. Well, I'll say this for kind of combine those ideas. I would love if at some point in Halo Infinite we actually did get to fight either insurrectionists or what I really want to see is Rebel Spartans, man. I want to see Rebel Spartans allied with the Banished or with the Created, and just kind of see how that plays out because that'd be so cool.
Yeah,
That's
that would
one
be
of the
cool.
biggest.
Or just imagine the Created making their own Spartans.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually kind of a point of a point of like disappointment. I wanted to avoid saying that because it has point twice, but whatever. A point of disappointment with Infinite is that you have the Banished, and since that announcement that they would be the main enemy, it feels like 343 seems like they've gone out of their way to try and make it seem like the Banished are very anti-human again for some reason. I can understand individual members, but they even go as far as to make Atriox anti-human. And it was like, you have the Banished, this group that seems to accept anyone. This was the perfect opportunity to have human enemies in a Halo game to kind of ease people into that idea and then maybe later on you could expand and do other interesting stuff with it. Like, God knows, I want a Splinter Cell style Halo title where you're stealthing around and shit, but you play as Spartan 3s in SPI or Spy Armor, as I always called it. And, maybe they're taking out Insurrectionists, maybe they're taking out Covenant, whatever. But I'd love to be able to experience that someday. But
Yeah,
back to it.
I
You have the
100%
Banished,
agree.
and why don't you have humans in the Banished for once? Come on.
I think a part of it, and this is just I don't, we obviously don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I would say 343 is it seems 343 is really trying to hit home that we're going back to the basics, back to the classics, and so really they have this kind of tall order of the band. I'm not trying to justify it because I 100% agree. It was
No, I hear you. I hear you.
They're trying to. It seems to me like they have this really tall order of filling the Covenant's role with the Banished, which I wonder how they're going to do it. I'm sure that Infinite's going to be a fun blast to play through. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, I should say. But at the same time... I think it'll be fun if nothing else. Yeah, but at the same time, it's a little difficult to paint the alien force as, like, the bad guys when there's humans in them, because no matter what happens, as long as there's a human face somewhere in that group, you can never truly make it evil, unless it's a World War II game, in which case, okay. But this isn't a World War II game. So I think maybe we might see human enemies in Halo Infinite's decade-long lifespan, but who knows?
That'd be nice.
And I think one last thing to add on to that, just the lore reason. It seems to me, just based off of Shadows of Reach, that the Banished, its core leadership seems to be anti-human. Like Atriox, his chain of command seems to be.
Atriox is what specifically was like weird to me.
Yeah, and
I can understand others.
Yeah, I didn't understand Atriox for the most part, because didn't Atriox come to even respect Cutter? Which
I mean, he literally like at second to last level opens with, "Hey, you're pretty fucking awesome. I'll let you go if you just go right now."
Which I don't know how that was going to work. You're way outside the galaxy. There is nowhere else to go, Atriox.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he probably thought they had a slip space drive. And for good reason in his case, because they...
Yeah, that's true.
They came in via slip space, so I assume that's what was his thinking. Or maybe he thought, hey, I'll get this working for you and you can go home like that or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he seemed amicable to some degree.
Yeah, and maybe it seems to me, because, again, Shadows of Reach showed us that a lot of it comes down to how do you present in the Banished, how do you present yourself? You present yourself through strength. And it seems to me that there are groups that are willing to work with humans that were in the Banished. The Keepers, for example, before they went AWOL. Spoilers, but the book's been out for so long.
It'll be a year next month.
Yeah, that's true. Wow.
I know, right? I still think of that as like a very recent thing.
Yeah. It really shows the content drought.
I mean, if you really want your mind blown, that book would have come out right, like, assuming that the launch date didn't really change that much. It was always going to be like a November, December launch date for Infinite. That book would have come out just a month or two in advance. Because I think it was originally a September release, and they pushed it back a month or two. Yeah,
that's... I mean, could tell Infinite really needed that pushback, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems to me that maybe Atriox's open hostility towards humans in the book came down to he's just trying to play it up because there is a lot of anti-human sentiment in other groups. It could be that he's trying to keep his grip, because really, without Atriox, the Banished will fall apart. And I think...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the Banished are not this unified force that the Covenant were, and I really hope Halo Infinite shows that. The only time the Banished are effective is when I say effective, I mean, like, truly unified as a force is if Aatrox or some direct line to Aatrox is right in the room with the people making the decisions. Otherwise, you get what happened on Reach with everybody fighting each other and everyone about to throw down. Even Gato Guy, this unarmored ex-Silent Shadow is getting ready to throw down with a fully armored Brute Chieftain with a gravity hammer, which badass points to you, my friend. But I don't know how well that would go for you.
No, I don't know.
Then again,
maybe he could have pulled it off. And I don't know about you. My headcanon is that Gato Guy was from that group of Silent Shadow that infiltrated Aatrox's ship early on in from Tales from Slipspace, the comic anthology. But like he like is able to talk the rest of the Silent Shadow into joining him, and they all kill their former commander. I like to imagine Gato Guy is from that group,
which would honestly be awesome in my opinion. I do wonder though. Speaking of the Silent Shadow, just we know that there are at the very least a few contingents of the Silent Shadow in Halo Infinite, or at least So I wonder, is it more or less that the reason that Banished are where they are now isn't because they conquered everyone. I mean, sure, they probably conquered and assimilated a few groups, but I think, to me, that with the downfall of Joel Mdama's Covenant and the, frankly, big power vacuum left behind as a result, because really Joel Mdama's Covenant was one of the largest post-war groups.
It was pretty much the Covenant faction.
Yeah, I mean, was it the Covenant? No, but it was the closest thing there was to it. Mm-hmm. It was like the last gasp of the Covenant, and with the created and a weakened UNSC, there's really just this vacuum in the galaxy. So I wouldn't be surprised if people and all these groups that are scattered about sees Aatrox and are thinking, well, this guy seems like he knows what he's doing, let's get behind him. You know, it's this or the giant space robots that will kill us. Pick a poison. That jazz. Which also begs the question, like, what is the culture like in the Banished? Sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Tangent. Cubby Cannon, eat your heart out.
That's a good question, honestly. That's one of those things that you just don't think about normally, but then once in a blue moon, it pops in your mind. It's like, wait a minute. And I don't know. It's like, I don't know if we can really answer that. That's a really good question.
I would absolutely love to see the Banished hunting big game on Zeta Halo. Like, I know we can't hunt, but just the thought of seeing a pack of brutes hunting big game on the ring.
Oh my god. You really want to get awesome. Like classic Halo, like have them hunting I can't remember what they're called, but the Thorn Beast, that's it. The classic Thorn Beast. Like if you could have Thorn Beast wandering the ring, and then the brute, because brutes actually like Thorn Beasts. That's one of their like delicacies or something like I remember that being mentioned that they particularly liked that, but
and
that would be really damn cool. It's like you see it off in the distance, this giant Thorn Beast being taken down by a small pack of brutes or something that are, bored on patrol and hungry.
And I know this is a distant reality because I'm pretty sure I never checked to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure Halo Infinite is rated T for teen. And,
yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah. Because honestly, this would have been, if it was rated M, what I would have loved to have seen, and I know this is really dark, how the Banished, specifically the brute sect of the Banished, treat their prisoners in terms of their games, their hunting games. That, like, it would be so cool if you could find a random Marine that's running from the brutes and you could save that Marine and send them off to an outpost. Or if you're an evil asshole, you could watch that Marine get ripped limb from limb. You could You're welcome to decide which one.
Like, that would have been a great opportunity to really dive into like some of the culture of these species, these groups. Uh, like you talked about how like seeing how they treat their caught game. Like you could, if you really, I just think like imagine this really dark moment. Like you're going through a banished camp, you find like all where they keep all their hunting game, and then next to all these animals are a couple humans in a cage too. Like your Marines, because brutes eat people.
Yeah.
That is established. That would be awesome to see that, like, obviously not in game, but see that implied through moments in the game like that.
Yeah, and I think a really one thing that would also be really cool is just um, it could maybe we could even see them saying something along the lines of, "Hey, you fight prisoner B, and if you kill them, we won't eat you." Something like
Oh
that.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I really do hope that with Halo Infinite being an open world game, they don't miss this opportunity to give us this really, really, really deep dive into the culture of the brute, especially the brutes, because we know
Yeah,
a lot about the Singhili. We know a lot about them. I
and
mean,
we just got to visit Sung
yeah,
Helios in Halo 5.
exactly. But we don't actually have a lot on the brutes. I mean, we can read
We have,
between the lines. We have a
yeah,
decent amount, but we don't really have the brutes. Just haven't gotten as much love as the elites have in terms of
really no species have, which is
yeah,
a bit understandable because the Sung Heli are basically the alien version of Spartans as far as the
yeah,
average fan is concerned. So like those are like the two things you want to learn the most about,
right.
usually at the start, and then you get into the other stuff as you dive deeper.
Uh,
But
I I also another thing. Speaking of brutes eating things, the poor jackals and
speaking of eating
grunts.
people,
The the poor the poor jackals and grunts, the poor Ungoy and Kigyar. There's no profits and there's no profits to stop the brutes now. Cause didn't the
yeah,
didn't the brutes have a habit of eating them? Oh man.
I don't know about eating those two. Yeah, I don't know if they've. I know they have talked about eating Sungheili, the brutes eating Sungheili. I know that's
Oh,
been a thing. I don't recall if they specifically have talked about grunts and jackals, though. I don't think that would be off the. Like, I think you'd have an easier time listing what isn't on the menu for a brute than what is in terms of sentient species.
number one, the angry space popcorn.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I would not be surprised if some really dumb brute said, "Hey, why don't we try eating the flood?" That would
Or maybe you could have a brute who is a former governor of contrition. Those are the guys that thought the flood were sacrosanct and should let yourself be absorbed in them. And he's just infiltrated the Banished, and he's secretly preaching their ideology by just like, hey, you ever wonder what flood tastes like? I bet that's pretty good. You want to go try some flood?
flood cannibal cult
Harry,
2
for the
electric
last time.
boogaloo.
Oh my, yes, flood cannibal cult. Oh my god. If the flood ever come back, I want to see 343 do really interesting stuff with them. There's so much you could do, like sleeper agents, or flood forms that combine with each other to make bigger, more powerful enemies, shit like that. I want to see some really out of the box shit.
Yeah, I mean, a while back, I believe it was, I think it was 00 on the cat chat. We were talking about the flood in Infinite if it were to ever
Hmm.
happen. I doubt it will now, but
Not in the base game, but
not
it
in the
could
base game.
happen. Yeah,
Um,
because actually DLC and or the main game and DLC can have different ratings.
yeah,
That they aren't locked into T for the next 10 years if they don't want to be.
right. And I had a thought of you know those rhino looking creatures
Hmm.
on the ring. What if the flood infected one of those and basically they would crash through fortifications and walls and then explode, showering infection forms and spores
Oh my
everywhere?
god, that would be the coolest carrier form in existence.
I really
Oh my
want to
god.
draw that now. I'm very tempted.
Uh, if you do, hit me up. I would
Will
love to
do.
see that.
Will do, yeah. I will. You will be the first to
343,
receive
hire
it.
us as consultants. We will tell you how to make the flood cool again.
Make the flood cool again.
Yes.
Wears a green hat. Just puts on a green
Yeah.
cap. Make the flood cool again. 2021.
Yeah. Shit, I might have to see if I can make that now. And
Please
then
send me one.
I'll send it to Hidden Experience.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I'll send
god,
it to you.
yes.
If that ever existed, that would have to be like you'd have to be like the first
Just
person to
maybe
send
it'd
them
be
those two.
a complimentary infection form plushie.
Oh my! I think those did exist, didn't they? Or
Did
am I
they?
making that up?
Did they?
I don't know. I might be just confused.
I
Getting
need to know
confused. But
this.
I do.
I'm googling this right now.
I think I made it up, but I want it to. I want it to be a thing at some point.
Well, I'm checking right now.
There are certainly fan made ones. I can say I know that. Oh, that was it. I was thinking of the.
Legend
There
Halo
was a yeah with the Halo
Legendary
Legendary
Loot
crate.
Crate
There was a
Flood
little.
Infection
There,
Form plush.
yeah, I okay. So I wasn't making that up. That came
I
from
need
somewhere.
this.
Cool. Well, I'm sure you might be able to find them on like eBay.
Yeah, it was the first thing I saw actually. It's an eBay thing.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Yep.
Order. Get it.
Yep,
Get it
I'm
for
getting
yourself.
it. I'm getting it. I will send you a picture of
It's
an
a-
infection form sitting on top of an ODST helmet. Yeah. Oh. My dog decided to join us, so if you hear a dog, I am sincerely sorry.
All good.
Um,
All the love to the doggo.
yeah, he's doing something. I don't. What are you doing, dude? What are you looking at? Are you looking at me? He's okay. He's been lost to the warp, so
Always love me a good 40K reference.
oh goodness gracious, burps rubbing off on me. So regarding 40K, one of my moderators, my good buddy Burb, he's really into 40K, and he's basically gotten me to read one of the books, and now it's like
Ooh.
it's on my brain. The amount of plot twists in that book is crazy. It's like there's a priest that's under attack from a psyker, and so the plot twist: the priest is about to die. Plot twist: Sisters of Battle come in. Plot twist: Sisters of Battle get defeated. Plot twist: Priest is about to get executed. Plot twist: the priest has an anti-psyker weapon on his wrist that he then uses to shoot the psyker. Plot twist: the psyker anticipate.
Jesus Christ.
It's like Game of Thrones.
First of all, how dare this story have the Sisters of Battle lose?
To be fair, it made
Yeah,
up for it
probably.
by having an entire order of Sisters of Battle proceeding to wreck the shit out of a rogue Imperial Guard regiment. So
Okay.
and when like it was we got to see the Sisters Repentia, we got to see the Celestians. It was a good time. It was a good time. That poor hospitalier got traumatized. But Halo. Halo.
Well, now we basically have 40K Halo thanks to those new armor sets in season.
Oh
8.
yeah, that's right.
The Blackguard shit is so 40K. It's crazy.
Just put them on red team. Blood for the Blood God. Am I right?
Yeah, pretty much. Honestly, though, the Norse ones are pretty. They have a lot of. They all like have their like weird 40K analogies in some way, but
Yeah.
Blackguard especially.
It's definitely pretty cool to see how many. I mean, I know that the Halo armors are historically themed, but just I like seeing how other franchises do pay homage to 40K in their own way.
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, in this case, it was just incidental.
Yeah,
They were saying
yeah.
But still, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah. Say, what are you doing? Sorry, the dog is scratching at my leg. No. Sorry. He's
all good.
He's a needy little guy. So would you say that's it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Good
Alright.
conversation.
Yeah, good conversation. Lots of puns. Lots of puns. I appreciate it.
A fellow pun connoisseur.
Do you know Pearls Before Swine by Stefan Pastis?
I do not.
Oh my goodness, Stefan Pastis loves his puns so much so that his own characters try to kill him on the regular for how much he does his puns.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny stuff. Um, a little mature, but given it's made it into the newspaper, it's not too crazy. It's
Okay.
yeah.